So one of the biggest arguments for D&D, that proponents of Dungeons and Dragons like to point to, is that it's a creative outlet. That that basically you and your friends are creating characters together and going on wide, epic fantasy adventures with giants, and it provides like a structured rule set to sort of guide you along making these characters, and yet a lot of people, I think, a lot of people are more intimidated by the rules than they are about making a character, because before I introduce the D&D Player's Handbook, and I pitched D&D to my friends, they were all for it. There was this one time where I was pitching D&D. I was even pitching D&D. My friends were all for it, but Liz, my friend's girlfriend, wanted to create characters right now, despite the fact that I didn't have this on me, nor did I have any dice. And I told her as much, and she was like, "What does that mean?" I'm like, "Ah, yes. What do you think it means not to have the rule book?" Anyway, so a lot of people are down to create characters, but they're not down to read this book, and it's somewhat intimidating. Even 5e, which they designed it to be very new friendly. It's very there's not a lot of math. There's not really anything that hard to keep track of. It's really weird. And I'm not even that uptight about character and originality. I guess that was kind of a big thing back in the day, when Lord of the Rings, the books, were popular. Everybody kind of wanted to make a ranger named Strider, and DMs back in the day was really, you couldn't think of any other ranger name. It has to be Strider. I think nowadays it has opened up from Lord of the Rings to a bunch of different characters, and that's actually really fun for me. A fun thought exercise. Squeaky chair. A fun thought exercise for me is to take fictional characters from different forms of fiction and kind of fit them into the D&D mold. I don't full on make characters much, but I sort of have these conversations with myself. You see, I have these conversations with myself, and I say, Batman. You can take Batman and have him be a monk. I think that would be the best way, because he's very agile. He doesn't have really any superpowers, so that takes any spellcasting class out. But he mostly fights with his hands. He doesn't really use much in the way of weaponry. Robin is kind of the guy. Robin usually uses a bow staff. A lot of Robins actually, the concept of Robin uses a bow staff, but Batman, he uses his fists. So you could you could sort of flavor that, like, even the key points, you can flavor that as just sheer tenacity. You know, he's just beating you down. So it's a fun conversation to have. I will say, like, you gotta flex your creative muscles here. You gotta flex something creative. You know, the name is a big sticking point to me. Like, because like, this kind of comes from the DM's point of view and sort of the other player's point of view. If you make a monk named Bruce Wayne, everybody's gonna be like, really? Really, you couldn't come up with any other thing, just Bruce Wayne? Or worse, just make the character straight up Batman. Like, let's go to the bottom of the barrel here. Let's just say, oh, I don't even give a crap about Bruce Wayne. This is Batman. This is just straight up Batman. It's kind of annoying, and it's kind of just like, oh, fun. We get to have Batman in our adventuring group. I didn't know I didn't know Third Earth had Gotham City. Like, be a little bit more creative. Be a little bit more, that's my thing. Be a little bit more creative. I like to take fictional characters and sort of work references, like, name them referentially to what they're based on. And sometimes it's not even all that clever. Like, I made a monk named Grayson Nightwing. So I'm not asking for much. I'm not even saying for much. Actually, one of my players, I don't know if this does stem from, like, a lack of creativity, or if he's doing this because I said this in his presence once, and he's like, you don't tell me what to do. But, like, in one game I played, he was playing a paladin named All Right, because he wanted to be an XP of All Might. Mind you, All Might, or All Right, already got into several confrontations with the local constabulary, and and was not the most heroic figure ever. That's another thing. Like, gotta make a video on. Although, like, pray for me, it's a video about alignments, but God help me. But he wanted to be All Might. He made a paladin named All Might, but is not acting the way All Might would. Fine, I guess, but really, why even? Why even? But in the current campaign I'm in, same group of friends, same person, and I sort of smirk, and I sort of, like, make jokes about this, but he had just gotten into JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. You know what's coming next, because of course, when anyone gets into JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, someone usually rears his head. You thought it was JoJo, but it was I. It wanted to be Dio Brando. First of all, oh, well, we'll get into that. We'll get into that. But he also was like, oh man, I don't want to literally be Dio Brando. What if I was Bio Dando? Galaxy brain here. I'm like, okay, whatever, but you couldn't come up with a better name, especially with Dio, right? It's his whole name in for those of you who don't know, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is already, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the characters, at least part 1, the characters are named after musical references, at least in part 1. There's a very very musical motif in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, I should say. And Dio Brando is named, for Ronnie James Dio and Marlon Brando, who's more of an actor, but whatever. I know Marlon Brando more as an actor. Brainstorming this video, I kept wondering to myself, was Marlon Brando part of the Rat Pack? If I were to make a Dio-like character, I would name him Ronnie, Ronnie Sinatra. Taking another part of the name and then taking another member of the Rat Pack. Yeah, it's, I don't know. What's kind of also weird is that he made him a human fighter. Which, by the way, basic as all get out, oh, I'm a human fighter. I think a human fighter is kind of when you're friend-zoning D&D, the concept of D&D itself. It's like, I like playing D&D, but I don't want to, I don't actually want to play D&D. I just want to roll the D20. There I go, roasting fighters. But it's true. I'm roasting fighters, but it's true. Which is also weird because, you would, for anything to be Dio, maybe a warlock. Maybe a warlock or a sorcerer, especially since, he kind of shot himself in the foot becoming a fighter because the fighters don't know any spells. Fighters don't, fighters, they're the basic. They, rangers have spells, which is weird. I know maybe some subclass of rogue have some spells. Nothing in the player's handbook. But, even the ranger has some spells. The paladin, especially since he's kind of made it his quest in this campaign to gain a magical item of time stop. And we were joking about this, and I lowballed it. I was time stop has to be a very powerful spell, maybe 6th level, but no, I was not prepared for that. I was not prepared for how much Zawaldo, because of course, how much Zawaldo actually is how powerful it is. It's a 9th level spell. Hold on, let me telepathy thaumaturgy, time stop, ninth level transmutation. Ninth level transmutation. So he's a basic fighter, and like he's on this quest to find Zawoldo. Okay, fine. But now he's like, but now the joke has like, he claims to have Zawoldo. He claims to be able to stop time, but it's basically like, want to see me go to that tree and back again? Want to see me do it again? Like every time he like boasts about it, it's like people have to make a charisma saving throw in order to like in order to like to believe him or disbelieve him. Like if you don't make it, you're totally buying into it. That's actually really funny. You can do that. But like that's his quest to find a magical item of time stop. Seeing how this is kind of like a Halloween campaign, I don't think he'll find it in this campaign. But maybe I'll throw the dog a bone. Anyway. So you know, you have this character based on Dio Brando, who is not Dio, you know, or who shares his name but is not made to be anything else. Like, and there is homebrew out there. There is homebrew, 5e homebrew, that does, you know, allow you to make Dio. There, I got morbidly curious and searched up, you know, some homebrew, and you have like the Warlock pack of the Stone Mask. Now, I haven't blah 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 blah. I haven't play tested any of this, but like it's out there. 5e lends itself to a lot of homebrew, and it might just be like in like the era it's made. It's made in the era where anyone like can look in different books and find a homebrew, you know. But it's out there. Like I've seen homebrews for like the Predator. So it's out there. So I don't know. It might just be sheer like I don't want to go through everything. I don't want to like keep track. Like I only want one spell, and I don't want to keep track of any others. And that does, you know, that does crop up a lot, you know. In the campaign I played, where I was talking about Revenge by Beholder, the person Sosla, evil, he had a hard time creating a character because like this was just so intimidating, and it really isn't, you know. When you compare this to, say, Pathfinder, this is easy mode. This is like, you know, this is like, a lot of people do not like 5e because of how simple it is and how, like, and how kind of bare bones it is when it comes to character creation. Like I think a lot of people outside of that love 5e because it's so simple, and you know you're not calculating every single one. But like his main thing was like he didn't know what background to pick, which is strange to me because backgrounds I would say are are kind of the easiest, especially if you put some thought into your character. Like, you don't, like, for backstory, you don't have to write War and Peace. It's just what your character does and how he do. Ooh, background is how he do. Like, background, like, the Punisher and Batman are very similar characters. They're both vigilantes, and they're both, very beholden to the law. Batman, however, he came from a very rich, or at least financially well-off family, who were philanthropists. So, like, he has this very instilled sense of rights. And he's, like, part of his conflict is that he's always teetering on the edge of, becoming as bad as this gun he fights. The Punisher doesn't have any of that. When his big tragedy, when his family got gunned down in front of him, he was the patriarch of that family. He and they weren't the Waynes. They weren't. I think they were like middle class. He was a police officer, so I would assume so. But they didn't have that philanthropy, and he was already like older and world war weary, So whereas Bruce Wayne's psychosis came from when he was a child, and that just kind of built this kind of almost black and white interpretation of the law, or interpretation of right and wrong. Like, there's this line that you should never cross. That line was crossed long ago with the Punisher. His whole thing is let me be evil. Then let me be evil. Let me, gun criminals down. This chair is so squeaky. So like, that's background, and I sort of kind of joke about background a bit. It's because there are four main things. You have four characteristics. You have your choice of two personality traits, an ideal. So this is kind of where you draw the line, this is where, like, I can do anything, but if I fail to do this, or I do this, then I might as well die, Like, Kamen Rider is a very good example of talking about ideals, because, like, in Kamen Rider O's, Eiji, the eponymous Kamen Rider O's, his ideal is that if anybody were in trouble and he were able to stop it, and he wasn't able to stop it, he would rather die. That's kind of a paraphrasing of kind of his quote. You have a bond, which I describe as your Hokage. Your bond is basically like, what do you not shut up about? And I say like your Hokage because that's Naruto's bond. And like Ash Ketchum's bond is to be the world's greatest Pokemon master. Naruto's bond, he's going to be Hokage, hell or high water, So it's kind of weird to me that someone would be intimidated by a background of all things, especially since everything in here is pretty good, but it's been, like, this has been out for a few years now. There are more books that have more, backgrounds and races, like, You don't have to be beholden to this. I kind of am because this is the only book I own. But, like, I'll get Zanzibar's Guide to Everything. And that's probably going to be, like, another video of mine because there's something in there that, and it might actually be my next video. We'll see. Where, Zanzibar's Guide to Everything kind of has the table in there, which I really like, and which I really, you know, want, like, every RPG system to have. But, so, what's my main point here? My main point is, you know, be creative. You know, don't let this book, limit you or, you know, intimidate you. You know, just be creative. Yeah, you don't, you know, you're gonna like your character more than the character that you based on Dio, you know, the character you based him on. Like, you could say, like, Stones and Glass Houses, the same campaign as Bio, I'm playing a bard named Louis Drake, who is basically Louis Duck from DuckTales. Specifically Louis Duck. But even then, Louis Drake. Louis, Drake. Drake is a male duck. And he's a bard. He's a bard, charlatan, and he answers to a fake duke by the name of the Duke of Bologna. Like, I have fun. I have fun creating nonsensical characters. But yeah, be creative. Don't let this book intimidate you. You know, if there's anything not in this book or is worded weirdly in this book, you can always get with a DM. You know, a good DM will kind of let you get away with anything within reason. Play D&D. You know, you don't have to put in a lot of thought, but kind of put in enough. I think that's the point here. Be creative. I've been SMax, you've been you. Play some D&D. You won't regret it, I promise you. Come close your eyes.